Becky Britt, and I'm back with the third and final part of this pattern tutorial series on how to make patterns for The Sims 3 that are recolorable. So in the last one I showed you the basics of how to take your DDS that you made and turn it into a package The Sims can read. And so in this pattern, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to adjust the size. So right now, this size would be, the width of it would be the width of a wall in The Sims 3. So you'd get roughly 1 to 2 feathers per, well, per wall block. So walls are like 3 blocks high, maybe 3.5, 4. But the width, you would get 1 feather width per wall spot, which is pretty big, and that might be okay for a wall, but when you go to put the same pattern on a couch, it's probably going to be a little too big, and you're going to want something smaller. So I'm going to show you how to do that. In my experience, all the color lover patterns tend to be on the large size, which is good because it's easier to make a pattern smaller than it is to make it larger. The quality is going to look really bad if you try to make it larger. So if you still have your Photoshop file open where you have your separated layers, that's awesome. If not, you're going to have to navigate to where you had it before. So if you go to your profile, you can hit new, and it's going to show you your last 3, and you could click on them and get your preview image and start over in essence. So it doesn't hurt to, the first time around, if you did a file, save as and save this as a Photoshop file somewhere. So it's available for you to adjust the size when you go and test out in game and go, ooh, that's too big. So I'm going to start with this one just because I think it shows more of the pattern. It's easy to see what you're doing. So it's good to check the size that you're working with. So in this case it's 256 because this is the already sized up one that we did before. If you use the preview one, then that would be 200. But you're going to go File, New. And so if it's 256 that I'm working with, you want to multiply that number by powers of 2. So multiply 256 by 2, by 4, by 6. I probably wouldn't go any larger than 6, but you could do 8, 10, 12, whatever. You got the gist. And so if I end up multiplying it by 2, it's going to be 1/4 the size of the current pattern, which is usually multiplying it by 2 does it. If you really want it a lot smaller, multiplying by 4 would work. I don't think I've ever done multiplying it by, well, could you multiply it by 3? That's true. You wouldn't have to do powers of 2. You could do powers of 3. I mean, you could multiply it by anything. If you multiplied it by 3, it would be 1/6 the size. So I would stick to 1, 2, not 1. 1 will keep it the same. Multiplying it by 2, 3, 4 would probably be my recommendation. If you go too much smaller, you're going to lose all the detail. It's not going to look very good. So in this case, I'm just going to multiply it by 2. So 256 times 2 is 512. And before you get too impressed, I did use a calculator there. So 512 by 512, RGB color. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, and again, I like to fill the background layer with green or something bright and obnoxious so you can see it. I'm going to take the layer, so in this case this one here, drag it over here. It helps if you have view. Yes, go to view. You want to have snap on or snap to, and I have like everything selected. I think I must have clicked all, because that'll help the layers snap to the edges and to each other. So I'm going to hit Control J to copy it. I'm going to slide it over. And so notice here there's no line. If I had, because this was the sized up one, if I had used the default, so remember bicubic automatic is the default, you want to change it to nearest neighbor or bilinear. So I didn't end up with a line. Typically, this is where I would really see the lines forming, and so I'm really glad I figured out where that was coming from. If you ever do still have a line, it's a pretty easy fix. You would come back to this file here, and so the majority of this is white, so I'd grab white, and you grab a brush, and you just kind of color in the edges and extend them out. So it's an easy fix if you catch that it is not good, but I'm just happy I found the cause of where that's coming from. Anyway, so you color in the edges. You would grab black and color in here if you were having lines on the black part of the feather. Okay. So the other way, so Control J is the shortcut. Other way to copy it is to take the layer and drag it down to where you have the new layer icon down here. And you also get it duplicated that way. Make sure you're on the arrow and not the paint brush. And you copy it, Control J to copy it a fourth time. So you'll see it's literally a fourth the size because I have 4 of those blocks and they've pieced together well. I don't see green popping through, so that's a good sign. So now you want to select the top one while holding Shift, click the bottom one, or the other way around. So that selects all the layers at once. You right click and we want to merge the layers. So now that's one layer. Okay. Gonna do this layer now. I'm gonna drag it over, and I kind of like to hide the other layers, so I'm working with the green one. Going to Control J to copy it, Control J, again looking to see if there's green parts, which there aren't, which is good. And there we go. Select those 4 layers. Don't select the already merged one, and merge layers. So now I have these 2 layers ready to go. Now I have the top one, so I'm going to drag that one over, hide these 2 layers, so I'm working with the green, Control J to copy it 4 times, and I spread them out. Again, no lines, that's good. Take those 4 layers, merge the layers. So now we're almost done. We have those 3 layers that we had before. But our file is too large. If you do Control I to open up the image size, we're at 512 and we need 256. So again, we want to change this to nearest neighbor, preserve hard edges, or the bilinear. Those both seem to work. And we want to do 256. Can kind of zoom in. So quality isn't going to be quite as good, but it's not bad. Like, you get the gist. Even when it's super zoomed out, it's a feather, you know. But now you're gonna get a lot more feathers per little block, square block in The Sims. If you wanted it even smaller, you could multiply it by 3 or 4. So yeah, it gives you a little bit more control with the size. At this point, you would do the same thing. You do File New, 256, 256, RGB color. You'd open up the channels, add your alpha layer, and start dragging over the layers. Oops, I don't want to drag them. Just kidding, I lied. Don't listen to me. You would Control A, Control C, and copy it into the layers. So yeah, and then you would, do all the other steps that I showed in the first 2 videos, and you would get your smaller feather pattern. And I mean, when I make pattern packs, I usually include both sizes. I'll keep the original large one because some people might want the large, or especially for walls, it's kind of nice to have larger patterns. But then I'll also do the smaller ones that are a little more versatile for clothes and furniture and other things. So I hope that this tutorial was helpful and you learned something new. And yeah, thanks for watching. Mwah!